plasterer, that's 15 groats.
Hey, soul!
Stopping the draft in the privy.
Body! You calculating piece of clay.
Damnation!
Don't mention it. I've never seen a world so festering with damnation. I've left rings of beer on every tavern table from the salt sea coast across half a dozen counties, and every time I thought I was on the way to a faintly festive hiccup, the sight of the damned world sobered me up again. Where's the mayor? I've business with his worship.
Where have you come from?
Straight from your alehouse. Damnation's pretty active there this afternoon, licking her lips over gossip of murder and witchcraft. There's mischief brewing for someone. Where's the mayor?
I'm the mayor's clerk.
How are you?
I'm Richard. Can I have your name?
It's yours.
Now, look.
It's no earthly use to me. I travel light. As light, that is, as a man can travel who will still carry his body around because of its sentimental value. Flesh weighs like 1,000 years, and every morning wakes heavier for an intake of uproariously comical dreams that smell of henbane, guts, humours, ventricles, nerves, fibres, and fat. The arterial labyrinth, body's hell. Still, it was the first thing my mother gave me, God rest her soul. What were you saying?
A name and business.
Thomas Mendip. My well-born father, if birth can ever be said to be well, maintains a castle as draughty as a tree. At every sunset it falls reflecting down into the river, and fish swim through its walls. They swim into the bosom of my grandmother, who sits late, watching for the constellation of Orion, because my dead grandfather, she believes, is situated somewhere in the belt. That is part of the glory of my childhood.
I like you as much as I've liked anybody. Perhaps you're a little drunk, but here I'm afraid they may not take to you.
That's what I hope.
Who told you to come here? You couldn't have chosen a less fortunate afternoon. They're expecting company. Well, a girl, Alizon Eliot. Excuse me, I must get back to the books.
I'll wait.
He'll not see anybody, I'm sure of it.
Dear boy, I only want to be hanged. What possible objection can he have to that?
Why, no, I want to be hanged? How very drunk you are after all. Whoever would want to be hanged?
You don't make any allowance for individuality. How do you know that out there in the day or night, according to latitude, the entire world isn't wanting to be hanged? Now you, for instance, still damp from your cocoon, you're desperate to fly into any noose of the sun that'll dangle down from the sky. Life forby is the way we fatten for the Michaelmas of our own particular gallows. What a wonderful thing is metaphor.
Was that a knock?
The girl, she knocks. I saw her walking in the garden beside a substantial nun. Revelation.
2 steps down, she said. 1, 2, the floor. Now I begin to be altogether different, I suppose.
Oh, God. God, I can see such trouble. His life sending a flame to nest in my flax. Oh, for pity's sake.
Sweet, pretty noose. Nice noose.
Will you step in?
Oh, they told me no one was here.
It would be me, they meant.
Oh, would it be? Coming in from the light, I'm all out at the eyes. Such white doves were paddling in the sunshine, and the trees were bright as a shower of broken glass. Out there in the sparkling air, the sun and the rain clashed together, like cymbals clashing when David did his dance. I've an April blindness. You're hidden in a cloud of crimson Catherine wheels.
Oh, it doesn't really matter. Sit in the shadow.
There are plenty to choose from.
Oh, there are 3 of us. Forgive me.
He's waiting. He wants... he says...
I breathe, I spit, I am. But take no further notice. I'll just nod in at the window like a rose. I'm a black and frosted rosebud that the good God has preserved since last October. Take no notice.
Men, to me, are a world to themselves.
Do you think so?
I'm going to be married to one of them almost at once. I have met him already.
Humphrey, the town councillor.
Are you his brother?
Oh, no. All I can claim as my flesh and blood is what I stand up in. I wasn't born, I was come across. In the dusk of one Septuagesima, a priest found an infant about 10 inches long, crammed into the poor box. The money had all been taken. Nothing was there except myself. I was the baby, as it turned out. The priest, thinking I might have eaten the money, held me upside down and shook me, which encouraged me to live, I suppose, and I lived.
No father or mother?
Not noticeably.
You mustn't let it make you conceited. Pride is one of the deadly sins.
It's better to go for the lively ones.
Which ones do you mean?
But pay no heed, I was nodding in.
I'm quite usual, with 5 elder sisters. My birth was a great surprise to my parents, I think. There had been a misunderstanding, and I appeared overnight as mushrooms do. It gave my father thrombosis. He thought he would never be able to find enough husbands for 6 of us, and so he made up his mind to simplify matters and let me marry God. He gave me to a convent.
What showing did he think he would make as God's father-in-law?
He let his beard grow longer. But he found that husbands fell into my sister's laps, so then he stopped thinking of God as eligible. No prospects, he thought. And so he looked round and found me Humphrey Devize. Do you think he will do?
Maybe. He isn't God, of course.
Who are you?
Richard. The mayor's copying clerk.
The mayor is Humphrey's uncle. Humphrey's mother is the mayor's sister. Oh, and then again there's Nicholas, Humphrey's brother. Is he sensible?
He knows his way about.
Oh, enviable Nick.
Men are strange. It's almost unexpected to find they speak English. Do you think so too?
Things happen to them.
What things?
Machinations of nature, as April does to the earth.
I wish it were true. Show me daffodils happening to a man.
Very easily.
And thistles as well, and ladies' bedstraw, and deadly nightshade, and the need for rhubarb.
Is it a riddle?
Very likely. Certainly a considerable complication.
Where are you, Alizon? Alizon, what do you think? The stars have blown all my way by Providence. It's me you're going to marry. What do you think of that?
You have mud in your mouth.
You canter off.
Oh, no, Nicholas, that's untrue. I have to be the wife of Humphrey.
Heaven says no. The stars say Alizon for Nicholas, Nicholas for Alizon.
Are you mad? Why don't you go and clean yourself up?
What shall I do with this nattering way-goose, Alizon? Shall I knock him down?
His name is Richard, he says, and I think he might knock you down.
Nicholas, he might. There you have a might for once that's right. Forgive me an unwarranted interruption.
Oh, come in, come in. Alizon, dear, this Richard is all very well, but I was conceived as a hammer and born in a rising wind. I apologize for boasting, but once you know my qualities, I can drop back into a quite brilliant humility. God have mercy upon me, you have such little hands. I knew I should love you. How long will it be before you love me, Alizon? Let's go.
Oh, where are you taking Alizon, Nicholas?
Into the air, Mother.
Unnecessary. She's in the air already. This room's full of it. Put her down, Nicholas. You look as though you'd come straight out of a wheelbarrow, and not even straight out. And the air so trim and fresh, it's such a pity.
I must tell you, I've just been reborn.
Nicholas, you always think you can do things better than your mother. You can be sure you were born quite adequately on the first occasion. Oh, Alizon, you're a pretty child. And you're eager to see your handsome Humphrey. Nicholas shall fetch him. They're inseparable, really twin natures, utterly brothers, like the two ends of the same thought. Nicholas, dear, call Humphrey.
I can't, I've killed him.
Fetch Humphrey, Nicholas, dear.
I've killed him, dearest mother.
Well, never mind. Call Humphrey, dear.
Is that the other end of this happy thought, there prone in the flower bed?
Why, yes, it's Humphrey, lying in the rain.
One day I shall burst my bud of calm and blossom into hysteria. Tell him to get up. Why on this patient earth is he lying in the rain?
All flesh is grass.
Have you really killed Humphrey?
Nicholas, your smile is no pleasure to me.
We fought for possession of Alizon Eliot. What could be more natural? What he loves, I love.
Are you sitting there letting your brother be rained on? Haven't you any love for him?
Yes, Mother, but wet as well as dry.
Can Richard carry him single-handed?
Well, why can't he use both hands? And how did I know it was going to rain?
I'd rather have to plait the tails of unbroken ponies than try to understand Nicholas. Oh, it's bell-ringing practice. Their ding-dong rocks me until I become the belfry and makes bright blisters all along my nerves. Dear God, a cuckoo as well.
By God, a cuckoo. Grief and God, a canting cuckoo that laugh with no smile. A world unable to die sits on and on in spring sunshine, hatching egg after egg, hoping against hope that out of one of them will come the reason for it all. And always out pops the arid chuckle and centuries of cuckoo spit.
I don't really think we need to let that worry us now. I don't know why you're waiting or who brought you or whether I could even begin to like you, but I know it would be agreeable if you left us. There's enough going on already.
There is certainly enough going on, madam. Watch hell come as a gleam into the eye of the wholesome cat when Philip Sparrow flips his wing. I see a gleam of hell in you, madam. You understand those bells perfectly. I understand them too. What is it that out there in the mellow street the soft rain is raining on? Is it only on the little sour grass, madam?
Out in the street? What could it be?
It could be, and it is. A witch hunt.
Oh, dear, another.
Your innocence is on at such a rakish angle it gives you quite an air of iniquity. Oh, be disturbed, madam, to the extent of a tut, and I will thank God for civilization. If we listened, we could hear how the hunters, having washed the dinner things, are now toiling up and down the blind alleys which they think are their immortal souls, to scour themselves in the blood of a grandmother. Oh, they, of course, will feel all the better for it. But she, Grandma, is it possible she may be wishing she had died yesterday? That wicked, sobbing old body of a woman.
So much happens we'd rather didn't happen, but that's the world.
Oh.
At the moment, as you know, I'm trying hard to be patient with my sons. You really mustn't expect me to be Christian in 2 directions at once.
Melting, madam, you shall be my mother. What, after all, is a halo? It's only one more thing to keep clean.
You shall be my mother and weep for me on Tuesdays.
Oh, dear, I hope I can remember.
When shall I see the mayor? I've had enough of the horror beating in the belfry. Where is the mayor?
Here's Humphrey. Where would you like him?
Humphrey, why do you have to be carried?
My dear mother, I didn't knock myself down. Why should I pick myself up? Daffodils for my future wife.
You slawsy poodle, you tyke, you crapulous puddering pipsqueak. Do I have to kill you a second time? What about the stars?
All right, what about the stars? They flicker and flicker like hell's light they flicker.
You dismal coprolite, haven't they said that I shall have Alizon Eliot?
Astral delirium, dear Nick. Officially, Alizon is mine, and what is official is incontestable. Without disrespect either to you, mother, or to my officially dear one, I shall lie down. Who is playing the viol?
It's the chaplain tuning his fiddle by the bells. It must be time for prayers.
It must be time for something. Oh, you're both transfigured with dirt.
Where in thunder is the mayor? Are you deaf to the baying of those bib-and-tuckered bloodhounds out in the street? I want to be hanged.
Oh, blasterdom of injustice! You multiplication of double-crossing! Alizon, who's going to marry you?
He deserves no answer.
Let Humphrey go and officially bury himself.
Yes, but what about Alizon?
She's not for him.
Let me get out. I'll find the mayor myself, wherever he may be having his pomposity of snob joy snores.
Who the hell's that?
The man about the gallows.
Here comes your uncle. Do, for the sake of calm, go and sweeten yourselves.
Pest, who has stolen my handkerchief?
Is this the mayor?
Yes.
Use this one, Hebble. Go and get under the pump.
Noses.
Mr. Mayor, it's a joy to see you. You're about to become my gateway to eternal rest.
Dear sir, I haven't yet been notified of your existence. As far as I'm concerned, you don't exist. Therefore, you're not entitled to any rest at all, eternal or temporary. And I would be obliged if you would sit down.
Here is Alizon Eliot, Humphrey's bride-to-be.
I've come to be hanged, do you hear?
Have you filled in the official applications? So this is the young lady. Very nice, very charming. In triplicate. And a very pretty dress. Oh, splendid material. I'm only sorry you had to come on a troubled evening such as this promises to be. The bells, you know. Richard, my boy, what is it this importunate fellow wants?
He says he wants to be hanged, sir.
Out of the question. It's a most immodest suggestion which I know of no precedent for. Cannot be entertained. I suspect an element of mockery directed at the ordinary decencies of life. Tarsome Qatar. A sense of humour incompatible with good citizenship. And I wish you a good evening. Are we all assembled together for evening prayers?
Oh, no, you can't postpone me. Since opening time, I've been propped up at the bar of heaven and earth, between the wall eye of the moon and the brandy cask of the sun, growling thick songs about jolly good fellows, in a mumping pub where the ceiling drips humanity, until I've drunk myself sick. And now, by Jove, I mean to sleep it off in a stupor of dust till the morning after the day of judgment. So put me down on the waiting list for your gallows, with a note recommending preferential treatment.
Get this man away from here. Good gracious. Do you imagine the gallows to be a charitable institution? Very mad. Wishes to draw attention to himself.
Do you mean to say there's no recognition given to murder here?
Murder.
Now what is it?
I'm not a fool. I didn't suppose you'd do me a favour for nothing. No crimes, no hanging. I quite understand the rules. But I've made that all right. I managed to do in a rag and bone merchant at the bottom of Leapfrog Lane.
Oh.
Utterly unhinged.
Oh, Hebble, they're all in the same April fit of exasperating nonsense. Nicholas, too. He said he'd killed Humphrey. But of course he hadn't. If he had, I'd have told you.
Of course.
It was such a monotonous cry, that rags and bones. Yet like the damned cuckoo, it was more than time he should see something of another world. Poor old man, he wasn't anxious to go. He picked on his rags and bones as love picks upon hearts. He with an eye to profit and love with an eye to pain.
Sanctus fumus.
Get a complete denial of everything he has said. I don't want to be bothered with you. You don't belong to this parish. I'm perfectly satisfied he hasn't killed a man.
I've killed 2 men, if you want me to be precise. The other I thought scarcely worth mentioning. A poor, unprepossessing pimp with a birthmark. He couldn't have had any affection for himself, so I popped him first, and then knocked him into the river and held him under with my foot until he was safely in Abraham's bosom, birthmark and all.
What a confounded thing! Who do people think they are, coming here without identity, putting us to considerable trouble and expense to have them punished? You don't deserve to be listened to.
It's habit. I've been unidentifiably floundering in Flanders for the last 7 years, prizing open ribs to let men go on the indefinite leave that needs no pass. And now all roads are uncommonly flat and all hair stands on end.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a witch to see you, Uncle.
To see me? A witch to see me? I will not be the toy of irresponsible events. Is that clear to you all?
Yes, but she's here.
A witch to see me? Do I have to tell you what to do with her?
Oh, don't tell me. My eyes do that only too well. She's the one of witches. She's the one who most of all disturbs hell's heart. Jiminy, how she must make damnation sigh. If evil has a soul, it's here outside, the dead of midnight flower, Satan's latest buttonhole. Shall I ask her in?
She's young. Oh, God, she's young.
Oh, will someone say, come in? And understand, I don't every day break in on the quiet circle of a family at prayers. We're not quite so unceremoniously, or so dangerously near a flood of tears, or looking as unruly as I surely do, like a flurry of travellers' joy scrambling over a hedge at the littering end of summer. Well, will you forgive me?
You will find I can't be disarmed with pretty talk, young woman. You've no business at all in this house.
Well, do you know how many walls there are between the Garden of the Magpie, past Lazar's Field, Slink Alley, and Poor Soul's Pond to the gate of your paddock?
I'm not to be seduced. I'm not attending.
8. I've come over them all.
How could she have done?
Her broomstick's in the hall.
Come over to this side of the room, Nicholas.
Don't worry, Mother. I have my fingers crossed.
Never before in the whole term of my office have I met with such an extraordinary ignorance of what is permitted.
Indeed, I was ignorant. Well, they were hooting and howling for me as though echoes could kill me. I took to my toes. They say I've turned a man into a dog.
This'll all be gone into at the proper time.
But it isn't a dog at all. It's a bitch. An appealing, rueful, brindle bitch with many fleas. Are you a gentleman full of ripe, friendly wisdom?
This will all be gone into at the proper...
If so, I will sit at your feet. Oh, I'll sit anywhere. I'm tired. 8 balls are enough.
What are we to do? I can almost feel the rustling in of some kind of enchantment already.
She will have to be put in charge.
Oh, must she, must she?
He can see she's a girl of property, and the property comes to the town if she's a witch. She couldn't have been more timely.
Curious, crooked, beauty of the earth. Fascinating.
Get up at once, you undisciplined girl. Have you never heard of law and order?
Won't you use this chair?
Oh, thank you. Oh, this is the reasonable world again. Well, I promised not to leave behind me any little fly marks of black magic or any familiars such as mice or beetles. I'd preach demonology in your skirting boards. Oh, the tales, unbelievable, the wild tales they tell.
This will be discussed at the proper time.
When we have finished talking about my murders.
Oh, peaceful and placid heaven. Are they both asking to be punished? Has death become the fashionable way to live? Nothing would surprise me in their generation.
Asking to be punished? I know I've come here to have the protection of your laughter. Well, they accuse me of such a brainstorm of absurdities that all my fear dissolves. In the humour of it. Well, if I could perform what they say I can perform, I could have got safely away from here, fast as you bat your eyelid.
Oh, indeed. Could you, indeed?
Well, they say I've only to crack a twig when over the springtime weathercocks, cloudburst, hail, gale, whatever you will, come leaping fury foremost.
What they say may be exaggerated, of course, but where there's smoke...
They also say that I bring back the past. For instance, Helen comes, brushing the maggots from her eyes and clearing her throat of several thousand years. She says, I loved...
She loved?
Cannot any longer remember names, sad Helen. Or Alexander, wearing his imperial cobwebs and breastplates of shining worms, wakens and looks for his glasses. or to find the empire which he knows he put beside his bed.
Whatever you say will be taken down in evidence against you. Am I making myself clear?
Oh, they tell one tale that once when the moon was gibbous and in a high dazed state of nimbus love, I shook a jonquil's dew unto a pearl and let a cricket chirp 3 times, thinking of pale Peter. And there Titania was, vexed by a cloud of pollen, using the sting of a bee to clean her nails, and singing as drearily as a gnat. Why try to keep clean?
The earth is all of earth. So sang the queen, so the queen sung, crumbling her crownet into clods of dung.
Oh, you heard her too, Captain. Bravo. Is that a world you've got there hidden under your hat?
Bedlam, ma'am, and the battlefield Uncle Adam died on. He was shot to bits by the core of an apple which some fool of a serpent in the artillery had shoved into God's cannon.
That's enough! Terrible frivolity, terrible blasphemy, awful unorthodoxy. I can't understand anything that's being said. Fetch a constable! The woman's tongue clearly knows the flavour of spiritu maligno. The man must be drummed out of the town.
Oh, must he be?
Are you certain, sir? The constable, the lady was laughing, sir. She laughed at the very idea of being a witch, sir.
Yes, just it. Giving us a rigmarole of her dreams, probably dreams, but intentionally recollected, intentionally consented to, intentionally delighted in, and so as dangerous as the act. Fetch the constable!
Can you be serious? I am Jennet Jourdemayne, and I believe in the human mind. Why play with me and make me afraid of you? As you did for a moment, I confess it. Oh, not believe. Oh, surely not when the centuries of the world are piled so high. You'll not believe what in their innocence those old credulous children in the street imagine of me.
Innocence, dear girl.
Oh, can they think and then think like this?
We'll be gone into at the proper time, disturbing the peace in every way. Have to arrest you.
No!
You bubble-mouthing, fog-blathering, chin-chuntering, chap-flapping, liturgical, turgidical, base old man, what about my murders? And what goes round in your head? What funny little murders and peculations, chatting up and down in 3/4 time, afraid to come out? What bliss to sin by proxy and do penance by means of someone else? But we'll not talk about you, it'll make the outlook so dark. Neither about this exquisitely mad young woman, nor about that congenital generator, your nephew there, nor about anyone but me. I'm due to be hanged. Good Lord, aren't 2 murders enough to win me the medals of damnation? Do I have to put 6 children on a spit and toast them at the flame that comes out of my mouth? You let the fairies fox you while the devil does you. Concentrate on me.
I'll not have it.
Power of Job! Must I wait for a stammer? Your life, sir, is propelled by a dream of the fear of having nightmares. Your love by the fear of your single self. Your world's history, the fear of a possible leap by a possible antagonist out of a possible shadow, or a not improbable skeleton out of your dead certain cupboard. And here am I, the true phenomenon of acknowledged guilt, steaming with the blood of the pimp and the rag and bone man, crime transparent. What the hell are we waiting for?
Will you attend to me? Will you be silent?
Are you doing this to save me?
You flatter my powers, my sweet. You're too much a woman. But if you wish, you may go down to the dinner of damnation on my arm.
I dine elsewhere.
Am I invisible? Am I inaudible? Do I merely festoon the room with my presence? Richard, wretched boy, if you don't wish to incur considerable punishment, do yourself the kindness to fetch the constable. I don't care for these unexpurgated persons. I shall lose my patience.
I shall lose my faith in the good breeding of Providence. Wouldn't this happen now, today, within an hour or 2 of everyone coming to congratulate Humphrey and Alizon?
Uncle, there's a sizable rumpus. Without exaggeration, a how do you do taking place in the street. I thought you should know.
Rumpus?
Well, perhaps rumpus isn't the word. A minor kind of bloody revolution. It's this damned rascal, this half-pay, half-wit. I should say he's certifiable. It seems he's been spreading all around the town some tale about drowning a pimp and murdering old Skips, the rag and bone man.
Ah, old Skips, what a surplus of bones you'll have where you've gone to now.
Old Skips, but he's
Will
the man
you
they...
both be silent? I will not have every Tom, Dick and Harry laying information against himself before he's got written authority from me.
Quite right. As it is the town's hell's delight. They've looked for the drowned pimp, and they've looked for old Skips, and they've looked in the places where he says he left them, and they can't find either.
Can't find either?
Can't find either.
Of course they can't. When he first mentioned murders, I knew he'd got hold of a quite wrong end of the stick.
They say this man's the devil.
I can imagine who started that story.
The devil? Are we so sure that he isn't? Outside in the street, they're convinced he's the devil. And none of us ever having seen the devil, how can we know? They say he killed the old men and spirited them into the limbo. We can't search there. I don't even know where it is.
Sir, it's between me and the deep blue sea. The wind of conscience blows straight from its plains.
Shut up! If you're the devil, I beg your pardon. They also have the idea that he's got a girl in his toils. A witch.
I am she.
Well, Humphrey, well, is that the end of your information?
Humphrey, have you spoken to your little future wife lately?
Tinder, easy Tinder.
In fact,
In fact, it's all a bloody revolution.
I'm being played with, I'm sure of it. Something tells me there's irresponsibility somewhere. Richard, you will not get out of this lightly. Where is the constable? Why isn't he standing before me?
I can see no need for the constable, sir.
No need, no need.
I'm late for prayers, I know. I know you think me a broken reed, and my vial too, my better half. You lacked it, I'm afraid. But life has such diversity, I sometimes remarkably lose eternity in the passing moment. Just now in the street there's a certain boisterous interest in a spiritual matter. They say that...
I know what they say, Chaplain.
Ah, yes, you know. Sin as well as God moves in a most mysterious way. It's hard to imagine why the poor girl should turn Skips into a dog.
Skips into a dog?
Skips trundles in another place, calling his rags and bones in gutters without end, transfigured by the spatial light of garbage indestructible. And I ought to know, since I sent him there. A dog? Come, don't let's be fanciful.
I say one thing and another and both at once. I don't know. It'll all have to be gone into at the proper time.
but this is a contradiction.
Isn't that life all over? And is this the young assassin? Well, if he is the doer of the damage, can it be she also? My flock are employing fisticuffs over this very question.
But if he could be the devil...
Good boy. Shall I set your minds at rest and give you proof? Come here. The day of judgment is fixed for tonight.
He says the day of judgment is fixed for tonight.
Oh, no, I've always been sure that when it comes, it will come in the autumn. I'm quite sure heaven wouldn't disappoint the bulbs.
Consider, vast in his lusted mother, a huge heaving desire, overwhelming solitude, and the mountain belly of time laboured and brought forth man, the mouse. The spheres churned on, hoping to charm our ears with sufficient organ music, sadly sent out on the wrong wave of sound. But still they roll, fabulous and fine, a roundabout of doomed and golden notes, and on beyond, profound with thunder of oceanic power, lie the morose dynamics of our dumb friend Jehovah. Why should these omnipotent bombinations go on with the deadly human anecdote, which from the first was never more than remotely funny? No, the time has come for tombs to tip their refuse, for the involving ivy, the briar, the convolutions of convolvulus to disentangle and make way for the last great ascendancy of dust, sucked into judgment by a cosmic yawn of boredom. The last trump is timed for 22:40 hours precisely.
This will all be gone into at the proper...
Time will soon be most improper. Why not hang me before it's too late?
I shall go and change my dress. Then I shall both be ready for our guests and for whatever else may come upon the world.
I'm sure he's mad.
And his information, of course, is in opposition to what we are plainly told in the scriptures, that the hour will come.
Do you think he means it? I've an idea he's up to something none of us knows about. Not one of us.
Quiet, Richard. Son of nobody.
It isn't always like this, I promise it isn't.
May I? Jennet Jourdemayne, the daughter of a man who believed the universe to be governed by certain laws, be allowed to speak. Here's such a storm of superstition, of humbug and curious passions. Where will you start to look for the truth? Am I, in fact, an enchantress bemused into collaboration with the enemy of man? Or is this the enemy, this eccentric young gentleman? Never seen by me before? I say I am not. He says perhaps he is. You say I am. You say he is not. And now the eccentric young gentleman threatens us all with imminent cataclysm. If as a living creature I wish in all good faith to continue living, where do you suggest that I should lodge my application?
That is perfectly clear. You are both under arrest.
Into Pandora's box with all the ills. But not if that little hell-cat Hope's already in possession. I've hoped enough. I gave the best years of my life to that girl, but I'm walking out with damnation now, and she's a flame that's got finality.
Well, do you want no hope for me either? No compassion to lift suspicion off me?
Lift? Compassion has a rupture, lady. To hell with lifting.
Listen, please, listen to me.
Let the world go, lady. It isn't worth the candle.
Richard, take her away, down to the cellars.
Ah, you see, he has the key to every perplexity. Kiss your illusions for me before they go.
But what will happen?
That's something even old Nose Drip doesn't know.
Nicholas, Humphrey.
Mr. Mayor, hang me for pity's sake. For God's sake, hang me before I love that woman.
Come along, Tyson, come along.
It's possible, Tappercoom, it's possible. We may have been putting the devil to the torture.
But can you smell scorching?
Not a singe for my sins.
Oh, for all practical purposes, I feel as unblasted as on the day I was born, and God knows I'm a target. Cupid scarcely needs to aim, and no devil could miss me.
But his action may be delayed, Mr. Justice. We really must feel our way. We don't want to put ourselves wrong with anything as positive as evil.
We've put him to the merest thumbscrew, Tyson, courteously and impartially. The purest cajolery to coax him to deny these cock and bull murders, for which there isn't a scrap of evidence.
Ah, but see how he takes it. He hasn't denied them.
On the contrary, he says he's also committed petty larceny, abaction, peculation, and incendiarism. As for the woman, Jourdemayne...
Ah, yes, Jourdemayne. What are we to make of her? Wealthy, they tell me, but on the other hand, quite affectingly handsome.
What?
I had a handkerchief... Ah, yes, buried among all this evidence.
Now, no poetics, Tyson. Blow your nose and avoid lechery. Keep your eye on the evidence against her. There's plenty of it there. Religion has made an honest woman of the supernatural, and we won't have it kicking over the traces again. Will we, Chaplain? In the land of Nod, admirable man.
Would there be something I could do? I was asleep, you know.
All this evidence from the witch finder.
It was very interesting. I was dreaming I stood on Jacob's ladder waiting for the gates to open, and the ladder was made entirely of diminished sevenths. I was surprised, but not put out. No, nothing is altogether what we suppose it to be.
Hebble!
For God's sake!
What is it? What is it now?
The street's gone mad. They've seen a shooting star.
They? Who? What of it?
I'm sure I'm sorry, but the number of people gone mad in the street's particularly excessive. They were shaking our gate, knocking off each other's hats, and 6 fights simultaneously. And some were singing Psalm 140, I think it's 140, and the rest of them shouting, "The devil's in there," pointing at this house, "Safety from Satan," and "Where's the woman? Where's the witch? Send her out," and using words that are only fit for the Bible. And I'm sure there was blood in the gutter from somebody's head, or else it was the sun set in a puddle. Hebble, dear, isn't it time they went home?
All right, all right, all right. Now, why can't people mind their own business? This shooting star's got nothing to do with us. I'm quite happy in my mind about that. It probably went past perfectly preoccupied with some astral anxiety or other without giving us a second thought. Eh, Tappercoom? Quite one of those quaint astrological holus boluses. Quite all right.
Quite an excess of phlegm in the solar system. It was on its way to a heavenly spittoon.
Oh.
How's that?
I consider it unwise to tempt Providence with humour, Tappercoom.
And on the one evening when we expect company, what company is going to venture to get here through all that heathen hullabaloo in the road? Except the glorious company of the Apostles. We haven't enough glasses for all that number.
Doomsday or not, we must keep our integrity. We cannot set up dangerous precedents of speed.
I wish I were a thinking man very much. Of course, I feel a good deal, but that's no help to you.
I'm not bewildered, I assure you I'm not bewildered. As a matter of fact, a plan is almost certainly forming itself in my head at this very moment. It may even be adequate.
Now, where did I put my vial, my better half? I laid it aside.
Ah!
Oh, Angel. Yes, I could take it down to the gate and perhaps disperse them with a skirmish or two of the bow. Orpheus, you know, was very successful in that way. But of course I haven't his talent. Oh, not nearly his talent.
If you'd allow me to follow my train of thought.
It's my belief the woman Jourdemayne got hold of the male prisoner by unlawful, supernatural soliciting, and bewitched him into a confession of murder to draw attention away from herself. But the more we coaxed him to withdraw his confession, the more crimes he confesses to.
I know I'm not a practical person. Legal matters and so forth are Greek to me. Except, of course, that I understand Greek. And what may seem nonsensical to men of affairs like yourselves might not seem so to me, since everything astonishes me, myself most of all. When I think of myself, I can scarcely believe my senses. Oh, but there it is. All my friends tell me that I actually exist, and by an act of faith I've come to believe them. But this fellow who is being such a trouble to us, he, on the contrary, is so convinced that he is, that he wishes he were not. Now, why should that be?
I believe you mean to tell us, Chaplain.
I imagine he finds the world not entirely salubrious. If he cannot be stayed with flagons, or comforted with apples, and I quote, of course, or the light, the ocean, the ever-changing, and stars. Extraordinary how many. Or some instrument or other. I'm afraid I appear rhapsodical, but perhaps the addition of your thumbscrew will not succeed either. The point I am attempting to make is this one. He might be wooed from his aptitude for death by being happier. And what I was going to suggest, quite irresponsibly, is that he might be invited to partake of our festivities this evening. No, I see it astonishes you.
You mean ask him?
I've heard very little of what you said, Chaplain, being concerned as I am with a certain thought. But am I to believe that you recommend our inviting this undesirable character to rub shoulders with my sister?
Ah, rubbing shoulders. I hadn't exactly anticipated that. It was really in relation to the soul that the possibility crossed my mind. And
as a criminal, a man's a liability. I doubt very much if he could supply a farthing towards the cost of his execution. So you suggest, Chaplain, we let him bibulate from glass to glass this evening, help him to a denial of his guilt, and get him off our hands before daybreak gets the town on its feet again.
I'm glad to tell you an idea has formed in my mind, a possible solution.
Sir, if you please.
Well, Richard?
I should like to admit that I drank some of the wine put out for the guests.
Well, that's a pretty thing, I must say.
I was feeling low, abominably, about the prisoners and the row in the street that's getting out of hand and certain inner things. And I saw the wine and I thought, well, here goes, and I drank 3 glasses full.
I trust that you feel better for it.
I feel much worse. Oh, those 2, sir, the prisoners, what are you doing with them?
I don't know why I keep calling you sir. I'm not feeling respectful.
Who's this cub of a boy?
Richard, be sensible. He's a dear boy, but a green boy. I'm sure he'll apologize in a minute or two.
Boy's a silly boy. He's a silly boy, and I'm going to punish him.
Where are Nicholas and Humphrey?
Now, Margaret.
They were where the prisoners are, down in the cellars.
Not talking to that witch.
There isn't a witch.
Oh.
They were sitting about on barrels. It seemed that neither would speak while the other was there, and neither would go away. Half an hour ago, they may be there still.
Well,
I must remind you, Margaret, that I was speaking to this very stupid boy. He's going to scrub the floor.
Oh, no.
Yes, scrub it. Scrub this floor this evening, before our guests put in an appearance. Mulish task for a mulish fellow. I haven't forgotten his refusal to fetch the constable.
Has Alizon Eliot been left sitting alone?
Alizon Eliot is not for you to be concerned with, Richard.
Am I supposed to be merely exercising my tongue, or am I being listened to? Do you hear me?
Yes, scrub the floor.
Furthermore, you relegate yourself to the kitchen this evening, fetching and carrying. If you wish to be a mule, you shall be a mule. And take this to whatever splendid fellows on duty. You return with the prisoners and tell them to remain in this room till I send for them. Tactics, Tappercoom. The idea that came to me. You'll think it very good.
I'm nothing but a justice here, of course, but am I to hear your plan, Tyson, or am I just to look quietly forward to old age?
My plan? Ah, yes, my plan. Conclusive and humane. The 2 are brought together into this room. How does that strike you?
It makes a complete sentence. Subject they, predicate are brought together.
Ah, you will say, with what object? I'll tell you. We, that is ourselves, the chaplain and my elder nephew, will remain unobserved in the adjoining room, with the communicating door ajar. And how does that strike you?
With a dull thud, Tyson, if I may say so.
I see that the idea has eluded you. A hypothetical devil, Tappercoom, brought into conversation with a witch. A dialogue of hell, perhaps, but conclusive.
Yes, but
either one or the other, by their exchange of words, will prove to be innocent, or we will have proof positive of guilt. Does that seem good?
Good is as good results.
I should never have thought that you'd have done anything so undignified as to stoop to keyholes, Uncle.
No, 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 my boy. The door will be ajar.
Ah, yes, that will make us upright. I can hear them coming. We'd better go.
Come along, come along.
Come along, Chaplain.
The ears of them that hear shall hearken. The prophet Isaiah.
Come along, Chaplain.
A drink, Tyson. I wish to slake the dryness of my disbelief.
Oh, I mustn't leave my mistress. Where are you, Angel? Just where Chucklehead left you, of course.
He wants you to wait here until he sends for you.
Oh, I'm not really here. I just came for my Angel. A foolish way to speak of it, this instrument.
If in some way I wish that I must fetch my scrubbers.
Oh, may I say a happy issue out of all your afflictions? I hope so. Oh, well, I'm away now.
God bless you in case you sneeze.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, I may. And God bless you.
You'd think by the holy scent of it our friend had been baptizing the garden, but it's only the heathen rainfall.
Do you think he knows what's been happening to us? I heard them hurting you.
Old Angel Scraper, he knows all right, but he's subdued to the cloth he works in. They didn't harm you.
No. Oh, how tired I am. What can you see out there?
Out here is a sky so gentle, 5 stars are ventured on it. I can see the sky's pale belly glowing and growing big soon to deliver the moon. And I can see a glittering smear, the snail trail of the sun, where it crawled with its golden shell into the hills. A darkening land sunken into prayer, lucidly in dewdrops of one syllable, nunc dimittis. I see twilight, madam.
But what can you hear?
The howl of human jackals.
Do you mind? I have to scrub the floor.
Twilight, double, treble, in and out. If I try to find my way, I bark my brains on shadows sharp as rocks, where half a day ago was a wild, soft world, a world of warm straw, whispering every now and then with rats, but possible. Possible, not this where I'm lost. The morning came and left the sunlight on my step like any normal tradesman. Now every spark of likelihood is gone. The light draws off as easily as though no one could die tomorrow.
Are you going to be so serious about such a mean allowance of breath as life is? We'll suppose ourselves to be caddisflies who live one day. Do we waste the evening commiserating with each other about the unhygienic condition of our worm cases? For God's sake, shall we laugh?
For what reason?
For the reason of laughter, since laughter is surely the surest touch of genius in creation. Would you ever have thought of it, I ask you, if you'd been making man, stuffing him full of such hopping greeds and passions that he has to blow himself to pieces as often as he conveniently can manage it? Would it also have occurred to you to make him burst himself with such a phenomenon as cachinnation? That same laughter, madam, is an irrelevancy that almost amounts to revelation.
Well, I laughed earlier this evening, and where am I now?
Between the past and the future, which is where you were before.
Or was it for laughter's sake you told them you were the devil? Or why did you?
Honesty, madam. Common honesty.
Honesty common with the devil?
Gloriously common. It's evil for once not travelling incognito. It is what it is.
Oh, thank you for that. You speak of the world I thought I was waking to this morning, but horror is walking with me here, 'cause nothing is as it appears to be. That's the deep water my childhood had to swim in. My father was drowned in it.
He was drowned in what? In hypocrisy?
In the pursuit of alchemy.
Oh.
In refusing to accept the dictum, it is what it is, poor father. In the end, he walked in science like the densest night. And yet he was greatly gifted. When he was born, he gave an algebraic cry. At one glance, measured the cubic content of that ivory cone, his mother's breast, and multiplied his appetite by 5. So he matured by progression, gained experience by correlation, expanded into marriage by contraction, and by certain physical dynamics formulated me. What years and powers he wasted, my poor father. He thought he could change the matter of the world by strange experiment and by describing numerical parabolas.
To change the matter of the world. Magnificent intention. And so he died deluded.
As a matter of fact, it wasn't a delusion. As a matter of fact, after his death, when I was dusting the laboratory, I knocked over a crucible, which knocked over another, which rocked a third, and they poured and spattered onto some copper coins, which 3 days later, by impregnation, had turned into solid gold.
Tell that to some sailor on a horse. If you had such a secret, I and all my fiendish flock, my incubi, succubi, imps and cacodemons, would have leapt out of their bath of brimming brimstone, crying, Eureka! Cherchez la femme! Emperors would be colonizing you, their mistresses patronizing you, ministers of state governmentalizing you. You would be eulogized, lionized, probably canonized for your divine mishap.
But I never had such a secret. It was a secret still. What it was I spilt, or to what extent, or in what proportion, whether the atmosphere was hot, cold, moist, or dry, I've never known. Someone else can discolour their fingers, tease their brains, and spoil their eyesight to discover it. My father broke on the wheel of a dream. He was lost in the search. So for me, the actual, what I touch, what I see, what I know, the essential fact.
In other words, the bare untruth.
And if I may say so without appearing rude, absolutely no devils.
How in the miserable world in that case do you come to be here, pursued by the local consignment of fear and guilt? What possible cause...
Oh, your thumbs. I'm sure they're giving you pain.
Listen, by both my cloven hooves, if you put us to the rack of an exchange of sympathy, I'll fell you to the ground. Answer my question.
Why do they call me a witch? Well, remember, my father was an alchemist. I live alone, preferring loneliness to the companionable suffocation of an aunt. I still amuse myself with simple experiments in my father's laboratory. Also, I speak French to my French poodle. And you must know I have a peacock, which on Sundays dines with me indoors. A few days ago, a new little serving maid carrying the food heard its cry, dropped everything, and ran never to return, and told all whom she met that the devil was dining with me.
It really is beyond the limit of respectable superstition to confuse my voice with the peacock's. Don't they know I sing solo bass in Hell's Madrigal Club? And as for you, you with no eyes, no ears, no senses, you the most superstitious of all. For what is the more superstitious than the mumbo-jumbo of believing in reality? You should be swallowed whole by time in the way that you swallow appearances. Horns, what a waste of effort it has been to give you creation's vast and exquisite dilemma, where altercation thrums in every granule of the Milky Way, persisting still in the dead sleep of the moon, and heckling itself hoarse in that hot head the sun. And as for here, each acorn drops arguing to earth, and pollen's all polemic. We've given you a world as contradictory as the female, as cabalistic as the male, a conscienceless hermaphrodite who plays heaven off against hell, hell off against heaven, revolving in the ballroom of the skies, glittering with conflict as with diamonds. We've wasted paradox and mystery on you when all you ask us for is cause and effect. A copy of your birth certificate was all you needed to make you at peace with creation. How uneconomical the whole thing's been.
It was a fine time to scold me for keeping myself to myself and out of the clutch of chaos. I was already in a poor way of perplexity, but now you leave me no escape except out on a stream of tears.
Oh, here, none of that.
I beg your pardon.
Well, now I'm down on my knees, I may as well stay here. In the name of all who were ever drowned at sea, don't weep. I never learnt to swim. May God keep you from being my Hellespont.
What I do with my own tears is for me to decide.
That's all very well, you get rid of them, but on whose defenceless head are they going to fall?
I'd no idea you were so afraid of water. I put them away.
Oh, Pete, I don't know which is worse, to have you crying, or to have you behaving like Catherine of Aix, who never wept until after she'd been beheaded, and then the accumulated tears of a long lifetime burst from her eyes with such force they practically winded 3 onlookers and floated the parish priest 200 yards into the entrance hall of a brothel.
Oh, poor Catherine.
Not at all. It made her life in retrospect infinitely more tolerable. And when she got to purgatory, she was laughing so much they had to give her a sedative.
Oh, why should you want to be hanged?
Madam, I owe it to myself. But I can leave it till the last moment. It'll keep while the light still lasts.
Well, what can we see in this light? Nothing, I think, except flakes of drifting fear, the promise of oblivion.
Nothing is seen in the thistledown, but the rough-head thistle comes. Rest in that riddle. I can pass to you generations of roses in that wrinkled berry. There. Now your hand holds a race of summer gardens. It lies under centuries of petals. What is not you have in your palm. Rest in the riddle. Rest. Why not This evening is a ridiculous wisp of down, blowing in the air as disconsolately as dust. And you have your own damnable mystery too, which at this moment I could well do without.
I know of none. I'm an unhappy fact, fearing death. Well, this is a strange moment to feel my life increasing, when this moment and a little more may be for both of us the end of time. You've cast your fishing net of eccentricity, caught me when I was already lost, and landed me with despairing gills on your own strange beach. That's too inhuman of you.
Inhuman? If I dared to know what you meant, it would be disastrous.
Means I care whether you live or die. You've cut yourself a shape in the air, which may be my scar.
Will you stop frightening me to death? Do you want our spirits to hobble out of their graves, enduring twinges of hopeless human affection so long as death shall last? Still to suffer pain in the amputated limb, to feel passion in vacuo? I tell you, the heart is worthless, no more than a pomander's perfume in the sewerage, and a nosegay of private emotion isn't going to distract me from the stench of the plague pit. You needn't think it will. Don't entertain the mildest interest in me, or you'll have me die screaming.
Well, why should that be? If you're afraid of your shadow falling across another life, well, shine less brightly upon yourself. Step back into the rank and file of men instead of preserving the magnetism of mystery and your curious passion for death. You're making yourself a breeding ground for love. You must take the consequences. But what are you afraid of, since in a little while neither of us may exist? Either or both may be altogether transmuted into memory. Then the heart's obscure indeed. Rich, there's a tear rolling out of your eye. What is it?
Oh, that I don't really know. I have things on my mind.
And not us?
Not only.
If it's a woman, Richard, apply yourself to the scrubbing brush. It's all a trick of the light.
The light of a fire?
And, Richard, make this woman understand that I am a figure of vice and crime.
Guilty
of
what?
mankind. I've perpetrated human nature. My father and mother were accessories before the fact, but there'll be no accessories after the fact. By my virility there won't. Just see me as I am. Me, like a perambulating vegetable, patched about with inconsequential hair, looking through two small jellies for the means to live. Balanced on folding bones, my sex no beauty but a blemish to be hidden behind judicious rags, driven and scorched by boomerang rages and lunacies that never touch the accommodating artichoke or the seraphic strawberry beaming in its bed. I defend myself against pain and death by pain and death, and make the world go round, they tell me, by one of my less lethal appetites. Half this grotesque life I spend in a state of slow decomposition, using the name of unconsidered God as a pedestal on which I stand and bray that I'm best of beasts, till under some patient moon or other I fall to pieces like a cake of dung. Is there a slut would take this in her arms and put her lips against it?
Well, sluts are only human. By a quirk of unastonished nature, your obscene, decaying figure of vegetable fun can drag upon a woman's heart, as though heaven were dragging up the roots of hell. Oh, what is to be done? Something persuades us into the terrible fallacy that man is desirable. There's no escaping into truth. Your crimes and cruelties leave us longing, and campaigning love still pitches his tent of light among the suns and moons. You may be decay in a platitude of the flesh, but I have no other such memory of life. You may be corrupt as ancient apples. Well, then corruption is what I most willingly harvest. You are evil hell, the father of lies. If so, hell is my home, and my days of good were a holiday. Hell is my hill, and the world slopes away from it into insignificance. I have come suddenly upon my heart. Where it is, I see no help for.
We are lost. Both irretrievably lost.
You are indeed. What? The woman has confessed.
It is a happy idea, eh, Tappercoom?
Spargri ores per vulgam ambiguous. The town can go to bed.
A very nice confession, my dear.
What is this popping noise? Now, what's the matter?
Oh, they think I've confessed to witchcraft.
Admirably.
Bother such sadness, you understand.
Now,
I'm sure
Chaplain, pieties come later.
Young Devize had better go and calm the populace. Tell them faggots will be lit tomorrow at noon.
No! What What do they mean? Am I at noon to go to the fire? Oh, for pity, why must they brand themselves with me?
She has bribed you to procure her death. Graft, graft, oh, the corruption of this town, where only the rich can get to kingdom come, and the poor man is left to groan in the full possession of his powers, and she's not even guilty. I demand fair play for the criminal classes.
Terrible state of mind. Humphrey, take him away.
Oh, well, I can but try.
You didn't try soon enough! Oh. Who else is going to cheat me out of my death? Oh, look, she's fallen.
Air.
Water.
But no fire. Do you hear? No fire. How is she, Richard? Oh, the delicate mistiming of women. She's carefully snapped in half my jawbone of an ass.
Life is coming back.
It is my duty as justice to deliver sentence on you as well.
Ah.
Found guilty of jaundice, misanthropy, suicidal tendencies, and spreading gloom and despondency. You will spend the evening joyously, sociably, taking part in the pleasures of your fellow men.
Not till after you've hanged me. I'll be amenable then.
Have I come back to consciousness to hear that still? Richard, help me to stand. You see, preacher, to the caddis fly, I return to live my allotted span of insect hours. But if you batter my wings with talk of death, I shall drop to the ground again.
Ah, one concession to your courage, and then no more. Gentlemen, I'll accept your most inhuman sentence. I'll not disturb the indolence of your gallows yet, but on one condition, that this lady tonight shall have her share of awful festivity. She shall suffer too.
Out of the question.
Quite out of the question.
Absolutely out of the question.
You shall spend your evening in searching for the bodies of my victims, or else the Lord Chief Justice of England shall know you let a murderer go free. I'll raise the country.
Do you think I could go in gaiety tonight under the threat of tomorrow if I could sleep?
That is the heaven to come. We should be like stars now that it's dark. Use ourselves up to the last bright dregs and then vanish in the morning. Shall we not suffer as wittily as we can?
I'm such a girl of habit, I'd got into the way of being alive. I'll live as well as I can this evening.
And I'll live too if it kills me.
Well, Uncle, if you are going to let this clumsy-fisted cutthroat loose on the house tonight, why not the witch girl too?
Foolishly, I can't help saying it. I should like to see them dancing.
We have reached a decision. The circumstances compel us reluctantly to agree to your most unorthodox request.
Wisely. But listen, woman, after this evening, I have no further interest in the world.
But let it be fully understood that this extravagant concession in no way revokes tomorrow's burning.
You see, my interest also will not be very great, I imagine, after this evening.
Oh, tedium, 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 tidium, tidium, tidium. The frenzied ceremonial drumming of the humdrum. Where in this small talking world shall I find a longitude with no platitude? I must apologize, that was no joke to be heard, making to myself in the full face of the moon. Ah, if only I'd been born flame, a flame poised, say, on the flighty head of a candle, I could have stood in this draught and gone out, whip through the door of my exasperation.
You're a pestering parasite. If I had my way, you'd be got rid of. You're mad and you're violent, and I strongly resent finding you slightly pleasant.
Oh, God, yes, so do I.
As things turn out, I want to commit an offence.
Does something prevent you?
I don't know what offence to commit.
What abysmal poverty of mind.
Humphrey, Nicholas, oh, there you are. Whatever's wrong? You both go wandering off as though our guests could be gay of their own accord. They're very nervous and need considerable jollying. Goose liver, cold larks, cranberry tarts, and sucking pig. And now everyone looks as though they only wanted to eat each other, which might, in the circumstances, be the best possible thing. Your uncle sent me to find you. I can tell he's put out. He's as vexed as a hen's hind feathers in the wind. And for that matter, so am I. Go back inside and be jolly like anyone else's children.
Mother, I'd as soon kiss the bottom of a Barbary ape. The faces of our friends may be enchantment to some, but they wrap my spirits in a shroud. For the sake of my unborn children, I have to avoid them. Oh. And I'll be brave, Mother. They'll go in the course of nature.
It's unfortunate, considering the wide choice of living matter on this globe, that I should have managed to be a mother. I can't imagine what I was thinking of. Your uncle has made me shake out the lavender from one of my first gowns, which has hung in the wardrobe 24 unencouraging years, to lend to this Jennet girl, who in my opinion should not be here. And I said to her flatly, the course of events is incredible. Make free with my jewel box. Where is she now?
No doubt still making free. Off she has gone, away to the moody, melting horizons of opal, moonstone, bloodstone, now moving in lazy amber, now sheltering in the shade of jade from a brief rainfall of diamonds, able to think tomorrow has an even brighter air, a glitter less moderate, a quite unparalleled freedom in the fire, a death no bounds to it. Where is she now? She's dressing, I imagine.
Yes, I suppose so. I don't like to think of her. And as for you, I should like to think of you as someone I knew many years ago and alas wouldn't see again. That would be charming. Humphrey, I beg of you to come. Give your brother a good example.
Our mother isn't pleased.
Benighted brothers in boredom, let us unite ourselves in a toast of ennui. I give you a yawn to this evening, especially remembering Mrs. Cartwright. To mortal life, women, all government, wars, art, science, ambition, and the entire fallacy of human emotions.
And wake us in the morning with an ambrosial breakfast. Amen, amen.
Humphrey, Poppin, draw back the curtains. I have a sense of daylight.
It seems we're facing east.
You've come too late. Romulus, Remus, and I have just buried the world under a heavy snowfall of disinterest. There's nothing left of life but cranberry tarts, goose's liver, sucking pig, cold larks, and Mrs. Cartwright.
That's Richie's running mad. What about the have-not moon? Not a goose, not a pig, and yet she manages to be the wit of heaven and rouse the envious queen of Sheba to wash in mercury, so that the Sheban fountains should splash deliriously in the light of her breast. But she died, poor queen, shining less than the milk of her 1,000 short-horn cows.
What's this? Where's the girl I spoke to earlier this evening with her essential fact? Surely she knows, if she is true to herself, the moon is nothing but a circumambulating aphrodisiac divinely subsidized to provoke the world into a rising birth rate. A veneer of sheerest Venus on the planks of time, which may fool the ocean, but which fools not me.
So no moon?
No moon.
Well, let her have the last quarter.
No. If he says no moon, then of course there can be no moon. Otherwise we destroy his system of thought. Confuse the quest for truth.
You see, Nicholas?
I have only one small silver night to spend, so show me no luxuries. It'll be enough if you spare me a spider. As it spins, I'll see the 6 days of creation in a web, and a fly caught on the 7th. And if the dew should rise in the web, I may well die a Christian.
I must shorten my sail. We're into a strange wind. This evening you insisted on what you see, what you touch, what you know. Where did this weather blow from?
Off the moors of mortality, that might be so. Or there's that inland sea, the heart. But you mustn't hinder me. Not now. I come of a long-lived family, and I have some 60 years to use up almost immediately. I shall join the sucking pig.
What I hear from your mother isn't agreeable to me in the smallest. Humphrey, will you explain yourself?
Uncle, I came to cool my brow. I was on my way back.
Don't keep us talking. I need to plunge again into that ice cap of pleasure in the next room. Please take my arm.
I am the host. I have the right.
Nicholas, he has the right. Let me commit no solecism so near to eternity. Please open the door for us. We must go in as smoothly as old friends.
I was to tell you, Mr. Tyson.
I'm not to be found. I'm fully occupied elsewhere. If you wish to find me, I shall be in my study. You can knock, but I shall give you no reply. I wish to be alone with my convictions. Good night.
The Great Bear is looking so geometrical, one would think that something or other could be proved. Are you sad, Richard?
Certainly.
I also. I've been cast adrift on a raft of melancholy. The night wind passed me like a sail across a blind man's eye. There it is, the interminable tumbling of the great grey mane of moonlight, washing over the little oyster shell of this month of April, among the raven quills of the shadows and on the white pillows of men asleep. The night's a pale pasture land of peace, and something condones the world, incorrigibly. But what, in fact, is this vaporous charm? We are softened by a nice conglomeration of the earth's uneven surface, refraction of light, obstruction of light, condensation, distance, and that sappy upshot of self-centered vegetabilism, the trees of the garden. How is it that we come to see this as a heaven in the eye? Why should we hawk and spit out ecstasy as though we were nightingales, and call these quite casual degrees and differences beauty? What guile recommends the world, and gives our eyes a special sense to be deluded above all animals? Stone me, Richard, I've begun to talk like that soulless girl, and she may at this moment be talking like me. I shall go into the garden to wring a solution out of the sulky shadows, a way to help her escape.
To hear her, you would think her feet had almost left the ground. The evening, which began so blackly, now as though it were a kettle set over her flame, has started to sing. And all the time I find myself praying under my breath that something will save her.
You might do worse. Tides turn with a similar sort of whisper.
Richard.
Alizon.
I've come to be with you.
Oh, not with me. I'm the to and fro fella tonight. You have to be with Humphrey.
I think I have never met Humphrey. I have met him less and less the more I have seen him.
You will forgive me. I've been mousing for a small Dutch owl. If it has said ter woo, ter weiss, it has said it 1,000 times.
Hey, Thomas! Oh, well. The crickets are singing well with their legs tonight.
It sounds as though the night air is riding on a creaking saddle.
You must go back to the others.
Let me stay. I'm not able to love them. They're dark and cruel. Have you forgotten what they mean to do tomorrow? Have you forgotten that they're going to burn her?
How could I forget? But there are laws, and if someone fails them...
I shall run away from laws if laws can't live in the heart. I shall be gone tomorrow.
You make the room suddenly cold. Where will you go?
Where will you come to find me?
Oh, look, you've pulled the thread in your sleeve. Is it honest for me to believe you would be unhappy?
When?
If you marry Humphrey.
Humphrey's a winter in my head. But whenever my thoughts are cold and I lay them against Richard's name, they seem to rest on the warm ground where summer sits as golden as a humble-bee. So I did very little but think of you until I ran out of the room.
Do you come to me only because you can never love the others?
Our Father God moved many lives to show you to me. I think that is the way it must have happened. It was complicated but very kind.
Well, if I asked you if you could ever love me, I should know for certain that I was no longer rational.
I love you quite as much as I love St. Anthony, and rather more than I love St. John Chrysostom.
But putting halos on one side, as a man could you love me, Alizon?
I have become a woman, Richard, because I love you. I know I was a child 3 hours ago, and yet I love you as deeply as many years could make me, but less deeply than many years will make me.
I think I may never speak steadily again. What have I done or said to make it possible that you should love me?
Everything I have loved before has come to one meeting place in you, and you have gone out into everything I love.
Oh, happiness seems to be weeping in me. I suppose it should, being newly born.
We must never leave each other, Richard, or else we should perplex the kindness of God.
The kindness of God in itself is not a little perplexing. What are we to do?
We cleave to each other, Richard. That is what is proper for us to do.
But you were promised a Humphrey, Alizon, and I'm hardly more than a servant here, tied to my own apron strings. They'll never let us love each other.
Then they will have to outwit all that ever went to create us.
So they will. I believe it. Let them storm. We're lovers in a deep and safe place and never lonely any more. Alizon, shall we make the future, however much it roars, lie down with our happiness? Are you ready to forego custom and escape with me?
Shall we go now before anyone prevents us?
I'll take you to the old priest who first found me. He's as near to being my father as putting his hand into a poor box could make him. He'll help us. Oh, Alizon, I so love you. Now let yourself quietly out and wait for me somewhere near the gate, but in a shadow. I must fetch my savings.
Oh.
Are you afraid?
In some part of me, not all. And while I wait, I will have a word with the Saints Teresa and Christopher. They may have some suggestion.
Yes, do that. Now, like a mouse. Only let me spell no disillusion for her. Safety, peace, and a good world. As good as she has made it.
Now, Richard, have you found Mr. Tyson?
Yes, he's busy with his conviction.
He's no business to be busy now. How am I to prevent this girl, condemned as a heretic, from charming us with gentleness, consideration, and gaiety? It makes orthodoxy seem almost irrelevant. Where is Alizon? The poor child has run away to cry. See if you can find her, will you, Richard?
I have to.
Oh, very well. I'll go in search of the sad little soul myself. Oh, dear, I could do with a splendid holiday in a complete vacuum.
Are you tired of us?
Why on earth can't you stop following her?
Stop following me.
I'm troubled to find Thomas Mendip.
He's far gone, as mad as the nature of man.
As rude and crude as an act of God. He'll burn your house.
So he has. Are you kind to mention burning?
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Is it possible he still might make for death even on this open-hearted night?
Who might?
Thomas Mendip is sick of the world. Well, the world has a right to him.
You're just the fellow, Richard. We need some more canary, say 5 bottles more. And before we go in, we'll drink here privately to beauty and the sombre, sultry waters where beauty haunts.
I have to find...
5 bottles of canary. I'll come with you and help you bring them. Quick, before our mother calls us back to evaporate into duty.
You have bewitched me, but not by sense of new-mown hell. For all I know, you may have had some byplay with the devil, and your eyes may well be violets in a stealthy wood where souls are lost. If so, you will agree the fire is fair as fair goes. You have to burn.
It's hard to live last hours as the earth deserves. Must you bring closer the time when as night yawns under my feet I shall be cast away into the chasm of dawn? I'm tired with keeping my thoughts clear of that verge.
But need you? These few hours of the night might be lived in a way which wouldn't end in fire.
Must we talk of this?
But listen. Will you listen? I am able to save you, since all official action may be given official hesitation. I happen to be on the council, and a dozen reasons may be found to postpone the moment of execution. And once postponed, a great congestion of quibbles may be let loose over the council table.
Oh, hope can break the heart, Humphrey. Hope can be too strong.
But this is true, actual, as my body is. And as for that, now impartially look what I risk. If in any way you've loosened the straps which hold in place our fairly workable wings of righteousness, and they say you have, then my status both in this town and the afterlife will be gone if either suspect me of having helped you. I have to be given a considerable reason for risking that.
I fondly hope I'm beginning to misconstrue you.
Later on, tonight, when they've all gone small into their beauty sleep, I'll procure the key and come to your cell. Is that agreeable?
Is it so to you? Aren't you building your castles in foul air?
Foul? No. It's give and take, the basis of all understanding.
Oh, you mean you give me a choice to sleep with you or tomorrow to sleep with my fathers? And if I value the gift of life, which, dear heaven, I do, I can scarcely refuse.
Well, isn't that sense?
Admirable sense, so why am I not sensible? Oddly enough, I hesitate. Can I so dislike being cornered by a young lecher that I would rather die?
Now, please, we're not going to confuse the soul and the body. This speaking bodily is merely an exchange of compliments.
And surely throwing away my life for the sake of pride would seem to heaven a bodily blasphemy. Suicide.
Even if heaven were interested, or even if you cared for heaven. Am I unattractive to you?
Except that you have the manners of a sparrowhawk, and with less reason, no. You're not. But I would no more run to your arms than I would run to my death, and I ask myself why. Surely I can't be mesmerized by some snake of chastity.
Now, this isn't the time.
Don't speak, contemptible boy. I tell you I am not. We have to look elsewhere. For instance, into my heart, where recently I heard begin a bell of longing that calls no one to church, but need that ringing anyway in vain drown the milkmaid singing in my blood and freeze into the tolling of my knell. That would be pretty indeed, but unproductive. No, it's not that.
Jennet, before they return and interrupt us...
I'm interested in my feelings. I seem to wish to have some importance in the play of time. If not, then sad was my mother's pain, sad my breath, sad the articulation of my bones, sad my alacritous web of nerves. Woefully, woefully sad my wondering brain, to be shaped and sharpened into such tendrils of anticipation, to feed the swamp of space. What is deep as love is deep, I'll have deeply. What is good as love is good, I'll have well. Then if time and space have any purpose, I shall belong to them. If not, if all is a pretty fiction to distract the cherubim and seraphim, who so continually do cry, the least I can do is to fill the curled shell of the world with human deep-sea sound and hold it to the ear of God till he has appetite to taste our salt sorrow on his lips. So you see, it might be better to die. On the other hand, I admit it might be immensely foolish. Listen! What can all that thundering in the cellars be?
I don't know at all. You're simply playing for time. Why on earth can't you answer me before I'm thrown by the bucking of my pulse? Before Nicholas returns to interrupt us? Will it be all right?
Doesn't my plight seem pitiable to you?
Pitiable, yes. It makes me long for you intolerably. Now be a saint and tell me I may come to your cell.
I wish I could believe my freedom were not in the flames. Oh, God, I wish the ground would open.
Allow me to open it for you. Admit I was right. Man's a mistake. Lugworms, the lot of us.
Wipe your filthy boots before you start trespassing.
And as for you, I'll knock your apple blossom back into the roots of the tree of knowledge where you got it from.
Oh, dear, is this lugworms at war? And by what right do you tell me to you with your long ears come moralizing in?
If he wants to fight me, let him. Come out into the garden. Whatever happens, I'll have one bash at him, which next to this other thing is the one most desirable act in the world. If he kills me, you and I, the day after tomorrow, can improve the deadly hours of the grave by thrashing out the rights and wrongs of it. Only remember, I thought you unfairly beautiful, and to balance your sins you should be encouraged, for heaven's sake, to spend your beauty in a proper way, on someone who knows its worth.
Sound the trumpets.
Oh, yes, why not? And a roll of drums. You, if you remember, failed even to give me a choice. You only said, die, woman, and look as though you like it. So you'll agree this can hardly be said to concern you.
All right, you've done your worst. You forced me to tell you the disastrous truth. I love you. A misadventure so intolerable, hell could do no more. Nothing in the world could touch me, and you have to come and be the damnable exception. I was nicely tucked up for the night of eternity, and like the restless dream of a fool's paradise, you, with a rainbow where your face is, and an ignis fatuus worn like a rose at your girdle, have to come pursued by fire, and presto, the bedclothes are on the floor, and I, the tomfool, love you. Don't say again this doesn't concern me, or I shall say you needn't concern yourself with tomorrow's burning.
You know what that little idiot Richard did? He locked me in the cellars.
Don't complicate the situation. I love you, perfectly knowing you're nothing but a word out of the mouth of that same planet of almighty blemish which I long to leave. But the word is an arrow of lark song, shot from the earth's bow and falling in a stillborn sunrise. I shall lie in my grave with my hands clapped over my ears to stop your music from riddling me as much as the meddling worms. Still, that's beside the point. We have to settle this other matter.
Yes, I was telling you, I went into the cellars to get the wine, and the door swung after me, and that little son of a crossbow turned the key.
Couldn't we find somewhere to talk where there isn't quite so much insect life?
And there I was, in cobwebs up to my armpits, hammering the door and yelling like a slaughterhouse till the cook came and let me out. Where is he?
Oh, what should we talk of? You mean to be hanged? Am I to understand that your tongue-tied dust will slip a ring on the finger of my ashes and we'll both die happily ever after? Surely his other suggestion, though more conventional, has fewer flaws.
But you said, like a ray of truth itself, that you'd rather burn.
My heart, my mind would rather burn, but may not the casting vote be with my body? Is the body necessarily always ill-advised?
Something has happened since I made the descent into those hellish cobwebs. I'm adrift. What is it?
Let me speak to her. You destroyed my defences, the laborious contrivance of ours, the precious pair of you. Oh, Jennet, you should have let me go before I confessed a word of this damned word, love. I'll not reconcile myself to a dark world for the sake of 5 feet 6 of wavering light, for the sake of a woman who goes no higher than my bottom lip.
I'll strip and fly my shirt at the masthead unless someone picks me up. What has been going on?
Ask that neighing horsebox kicker there, your matchless brother.
Ah, Humphrey, darling, have there been some official natural instincts?
I've had enough. The whole thing's become unrecognizable.
Have I a too uncertain virtue to keep you on the earth?
I ask nothing. Stop barracking my heart. Save yourself his way if you must. I shall always have your moment of hesitation, which I shall chalk all over the walls of purgatory. Never mind that, loving you, I've trodden the garden threadbare, trying to complete a way to save you.
If you plan to save me without wishing to save yourself, you might have saved your trouble.
I imagine it's all over with us, Humphrey. I shall go and lie with my own thoughts and conceive reciprocity. Come on, you boy of gloom, the high seas for us.
Go and drown yourself and take me with you.
There's no need to drown. We'll take the tails off mermaids.
Have any of you seen that poor child, Alizon? I think she must be lost.
Who isn't? The best thing we can do is to make wherever we're lost in look as much like home as we can. And don't be worried. She can't be more lost than she was with us.
I can't marry her, Mother. Oh. Could you think of something else to do with her?
I think Humphrey has been improperly making a proper suggestion, Mother. He wishes to be drowned.
They find it impossible to concentrate. Have you seen the little fair-haired girl?
He wishes to be hanged.
Have you hidden the child?
She wishes to be burned rather than sleep with my brother.
She should be thankful she can sleep at all. For years I've woken up every quarter of an hour. Oh, I must sit down. I'm too tired to know what anybody's saying.
We have come back.
I want to talk to you. Who locked me in the cellars?
Alizon, where have you been?
We came across old Skips.
We were running away. We wanted to be happy.
Skips?
The body of old Skips? I'd better find Tappercoom.
Alizon, what do you mean, running away?
We had to come back, you see, because nobody will be able to burn her now. Nobody now will be able to say she turned him into a dog.
He's rather drunk. Shall I bring him in?
Yes.
He'd been to see his daughter.
Meanwhile, shall we, as two inquisitive women, ask this man to admit he did no murders?
You think not?
I know. There was a soldier discharged and sent a list with a towering pride in his sensibility and an endearing disposition to be a hero, wanted to make an example of himself to all erring mankind, and falling in with a witch hunt, his good heart took the opportunity of providing a diversion.
Mother, we won't listen to this girl. She's jealous because of my intimate relations with Damnation. But Damnation knows I love her.
It's so unusual for anything not to be extraordinary that I'm sure what you both say is perfectly true.
What's all this, I'm told? I was hoping to hang on my bough for the rest of the evening, ripe and undisturbed. What is it? Murder, not a fabrication, after all?
Well, who will bother to hang you now?
Come in, Mr. Skips.
Your young gentleman says come in. So I comes in. He was only to say buzz off, and I goes without argument.
It looks uncommonly to me as though someone's been tampering with the evidence. Are you the rag and bone merchant of this town, name of Matthew Skips?
Who give me that name? Me grandfathers and me grandmothers, and all in authority under him. Baptized I blaming was. And I says to yous, baptized I am. And I says to yous, baptized I will be, with holy weeping and washing of teeth, and immersion upon us miserable offenders all. No offence meant. And if any of you's not a miserable offender, as you still to be, by almighty and merciful God, then I says to him, hands off my daughter, you bloody-minded heathen.
All right, all right.
And I'm not quarrelling, mind, I'm not quarrelling. Peace on earth and good tall women. And give us our trespassers as trespassers will be prosecuted for us. I'm not perfect, mind, but I'm as good a miserable offender as any man here present, ladies excepted.
Hey, Matt, aren't you forgetting yourself? You're dead. You've been dead for hours.
Dead? Well, you take my breath away. Do I begin to stink then?
You do.
Fair enough. That's corroboration. I'm among the blessed saints.
He floats in the heaven of the grape. Someone take him home to his hovel.
Alleluia. 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 Alleluia.
Now stop that, Skips. Keep your hosannas for the cold light of morning, or we shall lock you up.
Alleluia.
Richard shall take this old man home. Richard, where is Richard? Where's Alizon? Gone again?
Yes, Humphrey's future wife, blown clean away.
As it was in the beginning, ever and ever, amen. Alleluia. Alleluia.
Take this old man to his home. Now you've made him think he's dead, we'll never have any peace.
Nor shall we when he's gone.
Spread your wings, Matthew, we're going to teach you to fly.
I has the respect to ask to sit down. You's blessed saints don't realize. It takes it out of you, this life everlasting. Alleluia. Alleluia.
That's more pleasant.
That poor child, Alizon, she's too young to go throwing herself under the wheels of happiness. She should have wrapped up warmly first. Hebble must know in any case. I must tell him.
What's to be the end of you? I take it the male prisoner is sufficiently deflated not to plague us with his person any longer.
Deflated. I'm overblown with the knowledge of my villainy.
Your guilt, my boy, is a confounded bore. The woman prisoner may notice, without my mentioning it, that there's a certain mildness in the night, a kind of somnolent inattention. If she wishes to return to her cell, no one can object. On the other hand, how very empty the streets must be just now. You will forgive a yawn in an overworked and elderly man. The moon is full, of course. To leave the town unobserved, one would have to use caution. As for me, I shall go and be a burden to my bed. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. So much for me.
Thomas, only another 50 years or so and I promise to let you go.
Do you see those roofs and spires? There sleep hypocrisy, porcous pomposity, greed, lust, vulgarity, cruelty, trickery, sham, and all possible nitwittery. Are you suggesting 50 years of that?
I was only suggesting 50 years of me.
Girl, you haven't changed the world. Glimmer as you will, the world's not changed. I love you, but the world's not changed. Perhaps I might draw you up over my eyes for a time, but the world sickens me still.
Or do you think your gesture of death is going to change it? Except for me.
Oh, the unholy man-trap of love.
I put on my own gown again, otherwise everything that is familiar, my house, my poodle, peacock, and possessions, I have to leave. The world is looking frozen and forbidding under the moon, but I must be out of this town before daylight comes, and somewhere, who knows where, begin again.
Brilliant. So you fall back on the darkness to defeat me. You gamble on the possibility that I was well brought up. And of course you're right. I have to see you home, though neither of us knows where on earth it is.
Can you mean to let the world go on?
I know my limitations. When the landscape goes to seed, the wind is obsessed by tomorrow.
I shall have to hurry. That was the pickaxe voice of the cock beginning to break up the night. Am I an inconvenience to you?
As inevitable as original sin. And I shall be loath to forego one day of you, even for the sake of my ultimate friendly death.
Well, I'm friendly, too.
Then let me wish us both good morning, and God have mercy on our souls.